Hey BookTube, let's talk about the 5th season by N.K. Jemison.
I got my ticket for the long way round.
I'm Jen and I talk about audiobooks, and today I want to talk to you about N.K. Jemison's new book, book 1 of the Broken Earth series. It's the 5th season. On audio, this is narrated by Robin Miles. Robin Miles is spectacular in her narration of this book. I am so impressed with her, and so I did a little bit of research on her because I'd never listened to anything that she'd ever narrated. I found an article about her in Audiophile magazine. She got into audiobooks as a way to give back to the community because she saw an advertisement or a sign for Lighthouse for the Blind. That led her to auditions with Talking Books, and then that led into bigger opportunities. She has 195 books to her credit on Audible, and she is an actor and a dancer. And she got sick in 2004 with an autoimmune disease that prevented her from being able to use her voice as a narrator. So she started directing. She said some really good things in this article, and I want to read you a couple of the quotes. When I direct, I listen for the connection and the content. I visualize. If a narrator stops talking to me as a listener, I stop them. Isn't that great, knowing that that's the kind of director she is, and that's the kind of performance that she expects from the narrators that she directs? She also said, we as an industry must use the best narrator for each book. Every listener should have a star experience. Thank you, Robin Miles. She loves narrating, and it really shows with this book. This book has such an interesting writing style that is so suited to Robin Miles' voice. And in the past I've said I'm not sure if it's that her voice is suited to that kind of writing or she suited her voice to that kind of writing. Either way, her whole narration is wonderful. She does a few accents here and there, and her experience as an actor really comes into play and makes this book an experience on audio that is just amazing. I didn't think I was going to like this book, and I think Robin Miles is a huge part of the reason that I did enjoy this book. I read this book because it is shortlisted for the BookTube SFF Awards for 2015. And I started listening and I didn't really care for it. And I thought, I need to give this longer. I had read some other things that say, you need to give this book, so many pages before you give up on it. It's going to take you a little while to get into it, but once you do, you will be so glad you did. So true. So true. The synopsis of the book on Goodreads doesn't really tell you very much. And essentially it tells you that Essen, the main character, comes home and finds that her very young son has been murdered and her husband has left with their daughter. And she's pretty sure that her husband is the one that murdered their son. Well, she is undone by this, obviously. And she decides to leave and go in search of him. In the meantime, a huge earthquake event happens and it decimates a lot of the population. And so she's dealing with that on her travels, basically. The 5th season refers to a near extinction event that happens every, however many years. It wreaks havoc with the climate. In this book, there are people who can manipulate geology. They can fold rocks on each other and they steal energy from other people and use ice. And they are not well thought of by the general population. They are controlled by a group who can control them. And there is a very tight rein placed on these people. They are sent to a school to be raised up, to be able to be used by the government at large to kind of do their bidding, as it were. The book is told in 3 parts, and we follow 3 main characters. Essen is the first one, and interestingly, her story is told in second person. So basically, the book says, you go this way and you experience this thing and you think to yourself, and you are Essen. Another narrative that happens is from Damaya's standpoint. Damaya is on her way to this training ground where she will be taught. So it's the story of her journey there and then her experience there in this training area called the Fulcrum. And the third narrative is from the point of view of Cyrite, who is one of the Origines, and they're almost like soldiers. They are tasked, like I said, with doing the bidding of the government, and she's one of those people. We have the three narratives, and we jump between them. They are not one continuous narrative, and it's not till the very end of the book that they start all converging. And that is the amazing thing that happens in the book. That was what clinched it for me, that this was a book that I thought was, wow. This world that Jemison has created is fascinating. The idea that the geology of the earth can be manipulated by these people is amazing. It's amazing the way they do it. It's the whole hierarchy of the Origines is fascinating. The story of each of these three characters as the narrative goes along is so interesting. Their experiences and the people that they meet and the situations that they encounter are just really, really wow. All of that world building is so interesting. And once the book grabs you, you're in. You're invested. This is one of those books that has its own glossary at the end. So if you have a print copy of the book or the ebook, you can look and see what these things are that they're talking about. I listened to the audiobook, obviously, so I was able to glean most of it just from the context in which these terms were used. The nice thing for me was that I got the proper pronunciation of each term, so I liked that. Jemison's style is a very stark, kind of a blunt style. She's very direct in her writing, very accessible and very kind of almost like casual in the way that she writes dialogue and just the way that she communicates what she's saying. Once I got used to it and kind of got a feel for it, I really enjoyed it. And I'm wondering now if I should pick up some more of her books because I really enjoyed the writing style. This is a book that I thought this was going to be way out of my comfort zone. It was going to be way too weird, strange, you know, one of those out there kind of things that all the people that love sci-fi and fantasy would eat up. And I was just not going to be able to get into it. Well, that just was not the case at all. I really, really enjoyed this book. I loved the way that she developed these characters, the way that Damaya's experience happens within the fulcrum with her education was, I found that so just riveting. The way that things unfolded, the way that she responded to her classmates and what ended up happening. It was just so good. By the end of the book, you are so invested in these characters, and then this bomb gets dropped, and the very last line of the book is like, holy cow, where is the next book? Where is the next book? I gotta find out what happens. So really, really great story. I am so shocked that I liked it. But again, it's because the writing style was so interesting and different from anything else that I've ever read. And Robin Miles, wow, just right there. If you're going to read this book, I would strongly suggest that you listen to it on audio because it's fantastic. So if you are working your way through the BookTube SFF Award books that have been shortlisted and you happen to have read this one, or if you've just picked it up and read it before anyway, let me know what you thought of it. Did you like it? Was it hard for you to get into? Did the terminology kind of trip you up a little bit? Did you love it like I did? Did you find it just really fascinating the way it jumped from narrative to narrative? Let me know. Let's talk about that in comments. And that is it for now from me. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.
I'm gone. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me by my walk. You're gonna miss me by my talk. Oh, you're gonna miss me when I'm